Hello everyone, welcome back to another video. My name is Matt Schmidt and I guide people to heal themselves. Alright, in this video today I'm going to be talking about what your body is trying to tell you. Alright, for those of you that don't know me, I have a background that's mostly science. Spent most of my life in science working in drug development, working in central nervous system disorders and cancer, and now I find a better way. And once we learn to tap into this and listen to what your body's trying to tell us, or what's trying to tell you, you don't need the physical symptoms anymore. So, um, and this it's cool because this doesn't detract anything from anything that I know scientifically. This just adds another layer and really gets to the root of why this stuff is happening. All right, your body's not trying to trick you. It's trying to get you a message in most cases. And usually the messages start out like, hey, hey. And it's that gut feeling, that intuition, and when you're not listening, the messages get louder. Hey, hey. And then if you're still not listening, that's when like they get out the 2x4 and give you a message. And when I say they, I'm talking about um, this collective consciousness through your filtered through your higher self, um, your guides or whatever you want to call it. It doesn't matter how you see it. It is that guidance that we're always getting. Okay, and every person knows that voice or that feeling. When you've done something, you're like, oh, I shouldn't have second guessed myself. Yeah, it's because you knew what it was or knew what to do, even though you didn't know logically what to do. You were following your intuition. All right, and that is those messages that we're talking about. When we stop listening to those or don't take the action, that's when the messages get more pronounced, and that's when they start affecting our body. All right, so in this, I was gonna go through some of these things. It's really cool because when I started working with people, I started finding a lot of similarities. Okay, so I'd be working with someone and they'd be in this deep state of relaxation where they're able to connect and figure out these answers and figure out what their body and mind is telling them. And they started saying a lot of the same stuff. So knowing this, the game is a lot easier to play when you know what your body's trying to tell you. And really, your body's not trying to trick you. Okay? We think about what the part of the body does, what the function is, and you can usually figure out logically what that message is. Okay? And people just have forgotten how to do this or have not known how to do this. I didn't know any of this when I started. So that's why I want to put this out for people because you can figure out a lot of this stuff on your own. So I wanted to give you the tools to kind of figure that out. Okay. So I've worked with several hundred people individually, go through all their physical problems and stuff that's going on in their life, and a lot of the people are saying the same thing. So I wanted to go through and kind of break down the common ones. If you have other things that I don't cover in this video, feel free to put them in the comments, and I'd be happy to get back to you. So I started figuring all these things out with people. The cool part is I've actually gotten some books after that, and they were saying a lot of the same stuff. So if you want to work through some of this stuff in more detail, I can give you some resources. This first one is a light book. It's called Louise Hay, Heal Your Body. All right, very basic, but kind of goes through like what some of the things are. This one probably, it's Soul Speak by Julia Cannon. This book probably parallels what my findings are working with people. That's probably one of the. It's not a thick book as you can see, but very concise to the point, and then you can see how that kind of relates to your life. Um, if you were looking for a bigger reference book, I also got this book. It's called Metaphysical Anatomy by Everett Rose, and you can see a little bit chunkier. um, that's a good reference if you want to look up something and goes into stuff a little bit more detail, kind of breaks down things. One of the ones that I just got that really was really spot on with some of the things that I've looked up in it already is it's called Ailments and Diseases by Jacques Martel. All right, and this is also another pretty good sized book. And these things will give you more of a detailed understanding of what your body's trying to tell you, but you can really figure out a lot of this stuff yourself. Okay, so a lot of the times too, it's what it means to you. Okay, so when you go through these things, ask like usually ask the person, okay, what's going on, and I focus on the symptoms because the symptoms tell us so much more than what someone labeled the condition as, or you can have two people that have the same condition and it manifests differently. So they could have different symptoms. So I always focus on the symptoms. That's the more definitive than focusing on what someone calls it. All right. Before we get into what the body's trying to tell us, the big thing is if you're getting resistance in your life, in your job, in anything, and you've tried and stuff's not changing, do something different. That's probably it sounds really simple, but you wouldn't believe how many people get hung up on these things. Like, oh, nothing's changing. It's like, yeah, because you're doing the exact same thing and expecting something to change. So do something different. Okay, if stuff's not working out and you've like put effort into it and still not working, try something else, anything else. Okay, but people get stuck in these ruts and they don't want to do anything different because they get uncomfortably comfortable. Um, and really it does take that action, that step. If you're in a crappy job, things aren't going to get better till you like move out and move on, and things are going to get those messages are going to get stronger. Okay, we're going to help. All right. So when I work with people too, one of the really cool things that I find is um, with the parts of the body. So some of the people that I talk to, they say, "Oh, this is like your masculine and feminine." That really doesn't resonate with me as much as when I'm working with a person. It's stuff that's happening right now is on the right side of their body. Stuff on the left is from the past or past life. So I remember that as right now, left, past, or past life. All right. So when we talk about past lives, don't get too hung up on the past lives because I'd say probably only about 5 or 10% of the conditions that I work with people on are actually linked to a past life. Focus on the things that are going on in your life now. Okay, unless you've had like a condition since birth or really doesn't make any sense with anything else that's going on in your life, then it might be past life. But focus on the stuff that's happening right now. Okay, so like we said, left past life or past right now. All right. We're just gonna go. We're just gonna go right down the body. So, um, we said too. Think about the ones that I don't talk about. Think about what the function of the body is, and that will tell you what the message is. Okay. What is the function of that body part? Will tell you more about the message. So, let's see. Start with your head. All right. Headaches. Headaches usually are just like they can be from stress, pressure. What's the pressure in your life? Uh, with like migraines and stuff, I've had them actually go back to a past life, and the cool part is they'll start at the time when the trauma happened in that other life, and it's usually like blunt force trauma to the head, gunshot wound to the head, axe to the head, and your body or your mind actually like recreates it in your body. It carries over as a residue into this life. And the cool part is it actually happens at your life in this time at the age that it happened in that other life. So, for instance, say you were shot in the head at age 31. In this life, you'd start getting migraines at age 31 for no apparent reason. Okay, so it's really cool to see that how that like lines up. Probably not so much for the person having the migraines, but when they figure it out, they can move past it then. All right. Let's move down to the eyes. As you notice, I still have my glasses. That's one of the things that I'm working on. So, what are you having trouble seeing? What are you not seeing that's in front of you, or not seeing the big picture? Mine is not seeing myself as good enough yet. I'm still working on that. I've been told once I see myself how other people see me, I won't need the vision or the corrective lenses. So that actually goes back to been working through the layers of that, and that's one of the things I'm working on in this lifetime is seeing myself as a good enough partner, seeing myself as a good enough dad, seeing myself as a good enough or financially stable enough, and all these things. So all these layers to that one that I'm working through. So I got my stuff too. I don't think I don't have this all figured out. All right. So I'm working through my stuff too. But really, what are you not wanting to see? That's another thing. So it could be right in front of you, but maybe it's something you don't want to see. Like, oh, we're sleeping in different rooms and I'm still trying to make this relationship work. Yeah, you're not seeing what's right in front of you. Okay, you need to move on, even though it's like very clear. All right, we'll go to the ears. So the ears are, what are you having trouble hearing? What don't you want to hear? So remember, left, past, right, right now. What don't you want to hear right now? What are you having trouble hearing from the past, or you don't want to hear from the past, or sometimes it's not even listening to the message that you're being given. So how does that relate to your life? I usually ask, okay, what was happening in your life when this started? And then you can work your way back, and people are usually like, oh, okay. So they figured out by kind of like working through that. Okay. Um, the let's see, let's go with the mouth. So the mouth and even like throat. What are you not speaking up about? What in your life aren't you speaking up about? Sometimes it's not speaking your truth, not being authentic, not saying how you feel, not saying all kinds of things. So that's a lot with the mouth and the throat. I think I've had like 20 people with hypothyroidism, and every single person told me it was from not speaking up about something in their life, not speaking their truth. Um, and all these people like came up with this conclusion independent of each other. That's like the coolest thing. So think how that relates to your life, and then think about, okay, when did this start happening? Okay, what was going on in your life at that time? All right. Um, so let's go to like the neck. So we're talking about the neck. So if you're having trouble with your neck, and it's literally like being inflexible and seeing another perspective, seeing it from another person's point of view, yeah, how that lines up in your life. Think about that. All right, the shoulders can be, well, usually like the shoulders, arms, hands. It's like, what are you not letting go of? Okay, I see people just like arthritis and they're just like hanging on, like they have like almost these crab claws because they're clenched so tight. They're hanging on to something so tight that they're not wanting to let go, and it's actually affecting them physically. I'll give you an example. So um, I fell out of a tree with I was cutting trees. I fell out of the tree and grabbed onto the tree. Okay, so the cause of the my shoulder hurting wasn't me falling out of the tree. The actual like deeper cause was I wasn't letting go of my old job. I knew I was supposed to be doing this work, and I wasn't telling them that I was going to quit. I kept pushing it off. Oh, I'll just tell them next week or next month, and so my shoulder hurt for like 5 months. I couldn't like lift it above. Oh, okay, see, I couldn't lift it like above this, and then I couldn't like rotate it and without it hurting. And within 30 seconds of it was like that for 5 months, and within 30 seconds of telling them I was quitting, all of a sudden it didn't hurt anymore. I get a full range of motion of my shoulder. So the falling out of the tree is the mechanism, just like a car accident is trying to tell you something. All right, what happened in that car accident? How did that car accident happen? Were you rear-ended? Oh, maybe you need to get moving in life and you're stalling. So think about that and try to put the pieces together. And I'm giving you generalizations. Think how it pertains to your life. Okay, I know really only you can do that for you. Um, all right, so the upper back, let's go with like upper back and even sometimes the shoulders. It's literally taking on too much. So massage therapists and chiropractors will tell you kind of the same thing. They see these trends. It's not much of a reach, but really taking on too much in your life. Okay, and that's causing stress and or some of the stuff isn't your stuff. You're trying to take on other people's stuff or take on too much. So think about how that pertains to your life. All right. We work our way down to like the lower back. If you came to me and said, "Oh, I have problems with my lower back," the first question I would ask you is, "In what way don't you feel supported in your life?" All right. Think about how that pertains to your life, and really, it, sometimes we're looking for support outside of us, or we're in a situation where we're not feeling supported. Okay, maybe it's time to change that situation. Maybe, like I said, do something different. Um, and the other part is knowing that you're always supported. The truth of the matter is you're always supported. You're never alone. And it's really finding that support and within yourself. Right? The heart is usually has to do with love, not feeling loved, blocking love, and a lot of times it goes back to self-love. Someone in our family or anything that would like put that block around your heart. It's almost like putting up walls, and you put up those walls around your heart, and it actually can cause physical conditions. All right. So, in what way do you feel like blocked in love? And as we work back, it really goes back to self love. All right. Lungs, think about what they do. So, bringing in air, bringing in oxygen, that life force. What way do you feel suffocated in your life? Okay. Or you feel like you can't breathe or catch your breath. All those things can lead to that manifesting physically. Okay. Maybe you feel trapped in a situation at your job or in a relationship. Um, kind of the same thing. And maybe it's as simple as just asking for help. You feel like you have to do it all and it's like feeling trapped in that. Or maybe it's a change of environment, change of a new job, different department at work. Could be something. So think about how it pertains to your life. All right. With the kidneys, liver, think about the function again. All right. Well, what are you not filtering out of your life? What needs to be filtered out of your life? What's toxic in your life? What toxicity needs to be cleared from your life? So think about that, how that pertains. All right. The stomach. It's like kind of like the seat of emotions. Like a lot of emotions are stored in the stomach area. What are you having difficulty stomaching? What are you having difficulty digesting? What emotions are being stored there that you're not processing? Okay, and it's okay to like feel those and work through those, but like to like store them and hang on to them, like that's causing the physical issues. Okay, um, working our way through the digestion part. With you, I have people that come to me and they're constipated, and we talked about things being very literal. I think one person they said it was literally holding on to everyone else's crap. um, can't get much more literal than that with like constipation. Sometimes I've noticed too that the constipation sometimes goes back to control, or rather this illusion of control. Um, so it's trying to control things outside of what you have control over. Controlling what other people do or trying to control an environment or situation that you really don't have any control over, that causes that rigidity and you don't poop. It causes this constipation. On the other end of it, so the diarrhea part, what do you need to get rid of? What do you need to get out of your life? It's trying to clear something. Okay, so what needs to be removed? All right. The hips can do all kinds of things. So we think about the function of the hips, so many things. So this could be tied to the lower back. This could be tied to the legs, not moving forward in your intended direction. I've even had people where there's the side of their hip was hurting, and it was like literally being attached to the hip, to like an old partner, and they weren't letting go of that relationship. So think about how that kind of ties into your life. Those are always interesting ones because the hips have so many functions, but kind of think, when did it start happening? Okay, and then how that ties into your life. All right, we talked about not moving forward. So the legs, the feet, the knees, the ankles, that's all has to do with motion. Okay, so like we said, right side is what are you not moving forward on? What are you having trouble moving forward on? The left side is what are you having difficulty moving past? What can't you get past? All right. We can even break that down further. Like I've had people with problems with their heels, and it's like literally digging in their feet on moving forward because they're like very stubborn. Or I had problems with my toes on my right side, and it was literally dragging my feet doing this work or doing what I was meant to be doing. So it really does get very literal. We can kind of break that down so you can see how you can kind of break these down a little bit more and get a little bit clearer. But that was still like not moving forward. All right. Um, the we can work through like the reproductive parts. Okay, if it's reproductive parts for a woman, um, a lot of times it goes back to sexual trauma. Um, I find like people that have like cysts on their ovaries or something like that. It's usually like anger towards like the sexual trauma or towards something sexual. It could also be resentment or guilt related to childbirth. So I've had people that were like um, uh, either resented getting pregnant or resented not being able to have kids, or some guilt that they're carrying for, conceiving a child. So, or sometimes it's losing a baby, so they're carrying that with them. And once we release that guilt and release those emotions, then the body can heal itself. Right? As far as reproductive parts for a male, sometimes it goes back to like feeling at a loss or feeling a loss or feeling kind of a dysfunction of power, or different things like that. So um, yeah, it can be different things for males. One important point I'd like to make is the way you talk to your body. Okay, the way you talk to your body is so huge. If you knew how powerful your words were, you would never say a negative thing again. I had no idea before I started doing this, but every single person I've had that's had an autoimmune disorder was from the way they talk to themselves. I hate myself. Oh, I'm not good enough. I suck at this. Like, literally, you're telling your body to attack itself. Remember, your voice is the voice of God to the cells in your body. How are you talking to it? All right, your body responds. So if you knew how powerful you were, you'd never say a lot of the things that you say. So really start, and you can do this right now. Start talking to yourself differently. Um, but I mean, you are amazing. So start talking to that, and really, the rest of you responds. You start telling yourselves that, you start believing that, the rest of you follows. Okay. But yeah, every single person I've had with autoimmune disease, it's from the way they talk to themselves, that negative self-talk. All right. Diabetes usually goes back to literally lacking the joy or sweetness of life. So very literal once again. So in what way have you lost the joy or been able to find the joy in life? Uh, all these things are always around us, but it's what are you choosing to focus on? One of the things that made me really realize this was traveling to another country where they didn't have they have anything, and they're happier than the people at home. I'm like, what are we doing wrong? They're focusing on what they had rather than what they didn't have, or the one thing that was wrong in their life. So what are you choosing to focus on? Okay. Cancer has been pretty amazing. Usually goes back to suppressed anger, and these aren't necessarily like angry people. These are people that have held in this anger, or have bottled up some of this anger. Sometimes these are angry people, but um, really it's like a lot of it's suppressed anger. So usually goes back to anger. And the cool part is I've had like 4 people in a row that have had breast cancer, and it was all every person on their left side had breast cancer told me it was from suppressed anger from the way they're nurtured as a child. Every single person. So um, the cool thing about cancer is it can go in reverse just as fast as it can get out of hand. So it's called spontaneous regression of cancer, and your body has the machinery in it to do it. So it has natural killer cells, tumor suppressor agents, and really it's usually like 2 or 3 weeks for a person for their body to integrate this and be completely rid of cancer. So and there's usually some like level of forgiveness and stuff along with that. So um, you can check out one of my videos. It's called "Tearing Up the Contract." That's one of the videos I used for people to help with their forgiveness and to really separate from a person that has been in their life. Right. I did have a person that had cancer on the right side. Additionally, it was a minor form of cancer, but it was actually from guilt from not breastfeeding their children, and it was strong enough that it actually created a tumor, not working through that. All right. So cancer is a very intelligent like messaging system. It's kind of a last ditch effort to get you a message. So you could cut off the person's whatever, and if they didn't get the message, it's going to come back. So it's really a chance for you to like slow down and kind of like go inward and see where this is coming from, and really like change your outlook on things. All right. Um, One of the things I noticed too with people with joint pain and all these body pains, a lot of times it's like labeled as fibromyalgia and I don't know, all kinds of different things, but literally it goes back to fear. It's fear from moving forward, fear of um, yeah, usually it's fear of moving forward, or other fears of, oh, what will happen if I do this, and will this be okay if I do this? And it's like really your body is just in that state where it just like kind of locks up. Um, like I said, I don't focus on the names of things, but so you can put a name with things or what people call things. But really, it's just that joint pain everywhere, that body pain. It's like really that fear is debilitating. I find fear is probably the number one thing that holds people back from healing. Whether it's a fear of not healing, or a fear of healing, or a fear of what people at work will think if all of a sudden you're healed, or I don't know. I've had all kinds of stuff, but um, yeah, the simple things too, like colds, flus. I used to get sick all the time. Once you learn to listen to what your body's trying to tell you, you don't need to get sick anymore. Usually it's telling you to slow down or listen to your body, and maybe you're pushing too hard. I can think about all those times I got sick. I was pushing too hard and I tried to push through it and end up getting sick. Now I just don't need to get sick anymore because I'm hearing that, or I say hearing, but like I'm feeling that, knowing that before I get to that point. And I know to take those breaks. Weight gain is a common one. So I know people that run races that their their body's still hanging on to all this weight. So you can eat healthy, you can do all these things, but your mind is so powerful that it can override all that. And the weight usually goes back to, well, the question I ask is, what are you shielding yourself from? What are you protecting yourself from? Why do you think that you need this protection, this buffer? It usually goes back to a time when you were hurt. And the interesting thing is that, um, so like, yeah, what are you protecting yourself from? I've had people where in their mind, they think if I have this extra weight on, people will find me less attractive and I won't be hurt again. That's another common one. Either way, it usually goes back to a time when you were hurt and you put on this like protection, this buffer, this layer. So what are you shielding yourself from? Once you realize that you don't need that, you don't need to carry the weight anymore. Okay. Another quick point that I'll point out is people ask about like kids, and this was one of my questions too. I'm like, well, what is a 2 year old learning by having leukemia? Um, and I asked that right away because I'm like, what's the lesson there? And they said the lesson was for all the other people around that. Think of all the lessons that provided for all the people in that child's life, all the doctors, the parents, the family, the friends, the like everything. So that one life in that short span provided all those lessons for all those people. And the cool part is I've actually worked with adults and their kids' symptoms have gone away because the parents learned the lesson. So it's really fascinating to see. All right, I think I'll wrap it up there. And if you have things that I didn't cover, feel free to put them in the comments, or feel free to message me privately if you don't feel comfortable posting in the comments, and I'll do my best to get back to you and give you kind of my best guess to help you navigate what's going on. All right, thanks a lot. We'll see you on the next one.